Hi, everyone. I'm Tazeen Javed, hosting the podcast Survivor Stories Empowering Gender Based Violence Survivors, a project of Immigrant Women's Information Network, an organization working for immigrant women's right in Greater Toronto Area in Ontario. Today, we are speaking with Aisha, who works as a team lead in tech manufacturing. Thank you for being here with us today, Aisha. Tell us something about yourself. When did you come to Canada? How was your life?
I came almost 7 years back and I came all the way from Karachi, Pakistan. And honestly, I've been so busy in my life, academically, professionally. I was doing good back there, but my then husband, he was so passionate about coming all the way to Canada. I guess it's more because of peer pressure. His siblings were here too, so he wanted to come as well. And till the time we were engaged and until we married, the only topic of discussion was immigration and all. And I used to think he's very goal oriented and he wants to do something in life, which is great. And that's what you look forward to when you're doing something in your life your own. Um, we came here with a child, and before coming here, things were really difficult in that marriage. Unfortunately, I had to endure domestic violence, which included physical assault, emotional trauma, and whatnot. I got sick. I had severe mental and physical health issues just because of all those stress, right? And before getting into it, I would tell you that I did not even know the meaning of stress. I was the princess of my house at my father's. So I never lifted a plate, but there in their family, I was cooking for 15 people. On top of that, I was doing a job, completing my master's too, because my husband used to think that my points would not be enough for the immigration. So he was only focusing on that. He was not focusing on me, my health. He used to isolate me. I could not meet with my friends. I could not go to my parents. And there was a lot happening in my life, right? Eventually, I complained to my family. I let them know. And because coming from a background like Pakistan, I know that people do not accept when their daughters are complaining about the marriage. So they used to tell me, okay, just try to be patient and whatnot. But unfortunately, things only get worse, right? And if someone is listening today to me, I'm just going to encourage anyone going through such situation that do do not think that your adjustment or patience is going to change anything, because at least in my story and at least in many other women I spoke to who had similar situation, nothing gets better. Once a man who is your partner um curses you or disrespects you, the story is over there, right? And there's no point in going back to the place where you don't feel home, right? Home is where you're protected, home is where you're safe. And I did not feel safe with that person. But because I did not have enough emotional or moral support back then, and I was very young also, right? I was in my early 20s. So I did not know that how to manage in such situations, right? And eventually I started to speak with people at work. I used to work at a tertiary care hospital in Karachi, and my colleagues were mostly medical professionals. And because they had some experience dealing with such situations or giving advice to such women, they used to tell me what I can do or how I can deal with the situation. But frankly, because there's not enough support, I used to think maybe he will change when he come here, right? And when we came here, as I told you, we had a child who was just a year old at that time. And we were all by ourselves. His family was not with us. It was just me, him, and the child. And coming to Canada, everyone knows that there's a lot of a struggle in the beginning. You don't find jobs easily. Finding an accommodation is hard. But in that time of a struggle, I'm so thankful I got to see the worst side of him, because that brought the best in me. By that time, I can clearly tell you it was not just me, it was the mother of my child that, gathered the courage to fight from the situation. So what was happening is he found job and I did not. And because his salary in his perspective was not enough and I was not able to support him, he despised me even further. And he started telling me that I'm here on the PR. I will kick you out anytime and I will further do anything I want. And I don't want to mention the traumatic incidents that happened at that time, but I do want to mention that I actually found courage because in this country, I feel women are supported when they are able to have enough courage to raise their voice or raise their concern that something is happening which is not okay. And in any relationship, even if it is a man, I don't think anyone has to endure disrespect or abuse of any kind. So I was dealing with all that. On top of that, I had a child, and it's just later on we found his diagnosis, his autistic, right? But at that time, I did not know, and it was very difficult to handle such a child, right? And
I just, your husband was threatening to send you back because you were on PR.
yes, yes, tried his best to make me believe that I'm nothing without him. But at that time, Alhamdulillah, I had one zat to believe in, that was Allah Ta'ala. Alhamdulillah. I used to pray regularly and I think that also helped me because if you are connected to something spiritually or religiously, it always helps you to get back on the track, right? So he came from the work one fine day and I told him that some of my extended family wants to meet me and he was all okay. But he woke up the next day and he was all mad. Why did you invite people? I said, I did not invite anyone. Someone wanted to come, they asked me, and you were okay with that. What's wrong with you now? So because I told you he liked to isolate me from people. He was all furious that why did you invite me? I said, you know what? They're on the way now, and it's not the time to say no to anyone right now. That time he got mad. He assaulted me again on this, and unfortunately, my child was the witness of this incident. And because my little kid got so scared, he was screaming. I forgot my pain. I lifted my child, caressed him, and told my child that it's okay, mommy's fine, nothing happening. I told my relatives who were coming that you no longer need to come, you can go back to your home. And at that time, when I went to change myself because I was crying and I was so scared, I did not know if this can get any worse. But when I looked in the mirror, I looked at a different face of mine and I did not accept that face. That's not what my parents raised me for, right? No parent marry off their daughters to deal with abuse, to deal with a situation where they can be assaulted in a way that he damaged my facial features, right? So it was really hard. And it was harder to come over it because he was my husband for a number of years, right? And the decision to separate from him was secondary, but the primary was whether I'm ready to involve the authorities about that. So eventually, one of my relatives came anyway because they were coming from really far. So he said, I don't know. I think something's wrong with you. He said, if something's wrong, I can fix it for you. So I finally told them what happened. And they were in disbelief because anyone who knew me would know that at least I don't deserve this. And nobody would deserve it. Even someone is a bad person, nobody deserves that, right? So eventually, they left and they spoke to my husband that what's happening and what are you going to do. He said, sorry, it won't happen again. It was just a mistake. I was mad. I was doing two jobs, blah, blah, blah. He made all these things up, right? And after they left, he further escalated the anger and anguish, I would say, right? He was literally running after me in the house to beat me further. Can you believe that? So uh, it was really hard in that situation, but I was waiting for him to leave the house for his job. And I waited patiently because I had an idea if I call the authorities when he's present near me, he could hurt the child also. And all at that time I was thinking or worried about was my child. because my child was too small and I didn't want him to be affected. So eventually, when he left, and I was sure he's reached his workplace, because he just called me and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I behaved with you like that. I hope there's nothing wrong with us. And let's meet tonight. Let's go somewhere tonight." I said, "Okay, when you come, I'll go. No, not a problem." So when I made sure he was at a place where he cannot reach me easily, I called 911. I informed them what happened. And that was the first time I started crying, actually. I don't know what came into me. I got so emotional talking about my issue at that time. I spoke to that lady who was at the dispatch. I told her what happened. They sent police. Within 10 minutes, they were at my house. They looked at me, and because my facial features were damaged because of the abuse, they did not talk much. They just took my statement and asked me where he is. They went to his workplace, arrested him, and then he went to the court. He was bailed the next day because his siblings lived here, so they supported him. He was bailed, and then there was a huge waiting between me finally getting divorced from him, because I could no longer accept the abuse for myself or my child. So first, I fought with him to get the separation, because after 1 year you can only settle those separation terms, right? So my lawyer was really helpful at that time. His lawyer was also nice. They understood the law. They understood what happens between such situations. And when we settled the agreement, it was decided what time my child can see him, what time he can call him on the phone, and how can he provide child support and stuff like that, which are, I think, generic rules every separation agreement has to follow when a child is involved. So that got settled. After that, some time later, I got divorced. But before separation agreement was finalized, I found a job, and a good job, and which was as per my qualification. And I think that was a major milestone for me, not because I got a job, but because it was a start of the journey where, I would expand myself again in the Canadian market, like career wise growth, right? I did not want to stop my growth there. I wanted to learn further. I got admission in a college. I got another certification. I completed a designation exam, and I did well, I think. I kind of shifted my focus towards my own personal growth and my child. As I told you, he was autistic, and I felt like when I focus on his learning or his sports, he feels like safer with me rather than the teachers. So I focus on both of us, and we got healthy, we got happier, and we eventually got settled out of everything. At the time when I was separated, not that I did not have a job, he took all the savings I brought from Pakistan, thousands and thousands of dollars. He took everything from me, right? And in the name of money, I had nothing. I literally had no idea how will I buy groceries? How will I pay the rent? I had no idea. The landlords were nice, but still, you can live for free anywhere, right? So someone from a job agency, I'm forgetting the name of that agency, but they help new immigrants to settle down, right? Newcomer center, I guess. So I was connected with someone there. So she, knowing my situation, suggested me to reach out to Ontario Works. They immediately supported me. They started some money for my grocery. And meanwhile, I was looking for another space which is cheaper, which I could afford. And thankfully, government started paying childcare benefits. So we did not have to beg anyone. Meanwhile, I was trying to find the job, and that support actually helped me and my child get back to our feet, and I was really thankful for that.
You Okay, so you moved to where you are right now, and you sort of like rebuilt your life. You figured out, your child's schooling,
Yes,
their sort of like developmental issues and everything, and your life
yes,
was on course. But then something else
definitely.
happened. So,
Yes, because coming from a background like me, once I was finally divorced from my first husband, um, in our culture, see, people do not allow women to live alone like that. They're like, either you come back to your father's place or you get married again, right? So I was basically not looking to get married, but because there was a lot of pressure on me to go back, and I didn't want to because I knew there were better opportunities for my child in Canada than in Pakistan, so I wanted to stay here. So I agreed to the idea of getting married. Eventually I got in touch with someone, not for marriage purpose, of course, just he just asked some questions regarding immigration. And how I knew this person, because they were our family friends for several years. I mean, it was more than a decade I knew this family, right? So there was no point for any of us, me, my father, my mom, that we don't trust these guys. We were family friends, and we knew their family, they knew us. When the guy proposed me, he was not engaged, he was single, and by that time I was single too. Our families looked into it, and they did not have any problems with that. Eventually we got married, and with this one, because not only that this was my second time, but he was really kind to me and my child.
Okay, so for 2 years you were in a long distance relationship with him,
Yes,
and
yes,
everything was fine.
everything was fine. There were some red flags, and that again I shared with my family, but because it was my second marriage, my father asked me to ignore. So the major red flag was, number one, he asked me not to meet my friends and family here. Number two, he said he's not happy with his work in that country. That country is so corrupt, blah, blah, blah. And he needs support for a few months and he will return my money. And I'm not doing a very you can say high paid job, but I'm still doing a good enough job. Considering I'm a single parent, I have a lot of responsibilities already, right? So I was doing okay. But then I thought, okay, let's support him. It's just a matter of few months. But when he started taking money from me, he went back to Pakistan and he started living off on my money, right? And there was no stopping him. All the application expense, all the monthly expense he had back there, he used to ask me to pay, and I used to pay because it was my second marriage. I had a lot of pressure to keep that marriage. Unfortunately, it's a cultural thing, right? And I myself, I'm a very simple person. I would go on Walmart clearance rack and I'll buy anything from there, right? Whichever fits me. I'm not a person who will choose something to wear, right? Because my life does not revolve around clothes, makeup, food, anything else. My life mostly revolves around learning, education, doing some healthy activities, especially with my son. It's so important for us. So I bought everything for him. I set up the whole house for him. I did all my preparations, and we were actually very happy when he finally came here. 4 weeks later, when this person is about to get his PR card, um, he starts asking me about my child support, which I receive. At that time, I was not receiving child support, but because I wanted to keep my second husband out of my ex husband's story, I didn't tell him what was happening. But I just superficially told him that this much amount I get. So he said, "Why don't you give that amount to me? I'll make good use of it." I said, "Why do you need money? You're here now. You can go out and find any job at all. And if you don't find anything, let's grab a driver's license, and eventually, at least you'll be able to start with Uber or something, right? Meanwhile, you're waiting to find a job." He did not like my idea. He started cursing me. He started saying words which he should never say. I kept patient. I told my dad that this is what is happening, and I do not tolerate that for any reason at all. I do not deserve this. Nobody deserves that, and some things needed to be done about that. I even involved his family, and they were like, "Oh, he's mad for no reason. He'll get better. Don't worry." Again, the same situation where you're complaining about your partner being disrespectful, and our culture does not support this at all, right? It is very unfortunate. We are bound to follow those values. So in the fifth week when he arrived, he finally got his PR card. Okay, I collected the PR card. He was too lazy not to even collect it. Anyway, so as soon as I gave him PR card, he flipped. He changed his attitude 360 degrees, and sorry, 180 degrees. And I mean, it's actually strange because you, no matter how educated you are, no matter how much your father is a smart person, but you're making a choice to bring someone in your life, you can't be 100% sure, right? But what you can be sure is if something goes wrong, you have support, and there are things you can do to protect yourself and your child and your family. So eventually, this one also started abusing me, but his abuse was very different and indirect. He used to record my videos and send them back home and tell my father that I'm trying to commit a suicide. He also started to spread rumors about me that I'm having affairs with people at my work. And if he has to complain to someone at my work, he would say, I'm having affair with someone on the street. If he has to complain about me on the street, he would say, I'm having affair with some of my friends. I mean, he found nothing that he could do to get rid of me. So he started to use this as an excuse, right? And he exactly told the same story to his family also back home, who we knew for so many years. Eventually, when I spoke to his mom, I spoke to his whole family. They did not trust me. They trusted their son. And instead of telling him that he's married, he needs to build his life, they eventually helped him skip this marriage, that I would say. Not only that, he broke things around in the house, he also stole my car. He did not have a driver's license, he still stole my car. He physically assaulted me. He sexually assaulted me. It is unfortunate that because I had a previous record of complaints, this time I was not taken that seriously. And this time I did not, I would say, get enough support from the authorities compared to the last time. Thankfully, me and my child were safe later on. It still hurts a lot. Obviously, you feel betrayed. You feel like you don't bring someone in your life to have things like this happen, right? You have a lot of hope, you have a lot of trust, you have a lot of love for these people, but unfortunately, if someone has something in his mind, you can't help it. And I did not know until he left. He actually used our documents, our SIN numbers, to apply for social benefits. And he exactly knew that if he applies to social benefits, I will have to pay for the next 3 years. And that's what he did. He wanted $750. He used to mention that every month. And he exactly knew that is the nearest amount that Ontario Works would support him if he chooses to get the social support. And I have all the chat history. I have all the slurs he used to speak if I'm not ready to give him my SIN number or documents or money. I've showed him his messages to everyone and everywhere, including border services, IRCC, police, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Children, everyone. The only help I got was from the police to separate us for our safety. But other than that, they did not register they did not charge him for the sexual assault because according to them, I did not meet the threshold for the complaint.
Can you explain for the audience what is the threshold for complaint?
Actually, the police explained to me that unless someone literally forces themselves on you, uh, and you have to undergo a lot of medical scrutiny and stuff like that to verify that you can't charge someone for that. And I did not accept the part where he said about medical scrutiny, number one. And number two, I told police that I had to concede in that activity because my child was sleeping in the next room and then I was afraid of his safety. He kicked me up and he woke me up from the sleep and he started to assault me, right? I said, okay, hold on, let's do it. But that was not my consent, right? I was trying to protect my child who was sleeping in the other room. And I told police everything, right? Instead of investigating that, they did not charge him. They did charge him for mischief because he stole my car. They did charge him for damage to property because he broke things around. And eventually he was arrested, but released the same day. Right. And I did not care whether he will be released or not, whether he'll be taken to the court or not, because my child was involved and myself was involved. And unfortunately, I've been there before. I just wanted to have a safe, healthy environment at my home again.
Okay. And have you sought any help, like other than like running to Ontario Works or anything else? Like, where is your sort of like dissolution of marriage stands? Any of those things? Like, did you get any help from somebody?
So unfortunately, even though I reached out to every possible organization, I'm writing them emails to and fro since December, and I'm still nowhere.
Okay, so I have a question for you. if you were sort of like, if somebody's to ask you like how to sort of like, deal with similar situation that you have been through, what would you suggest to them? How to sort of like, because you have been through, you were dealing with things while you were going through. You did not have enough time to process things. So
Not
now
at
that
all.
you are out of it, sort of, you're still dealing with a lot of things, but you're out of that immediate danger, and you are not living with somebody who's violent that way. What would you suggest to people? And also regarding sponsorship, like what would you suggest to other women out there who might be in similar situation as yours?
As I suggested that no matter how many years you've known someone, you can't be sure, right? On top of that, if someone is in a situation where a police report was filed, you were a victim of abuse, there's always help available from the victim services, especially, and they helped me in a way nobody else did. They actually listened to my concern, and even if they were not able to help me in the court or anywhere else because they're also limited, right? They listened to my concern. They provided me help with a clinical psychologist too. I had therapy sessions because of them, and thankfully, at that time it was nothing less than a blessing for me, right? And because I mentioned I was in the shock situation. See, trauma is different from shock. Traumatic situation is like you're sad, you know something has passed, and you are having a closure from that. But in my situation, I was still in shock that what just happened. And how could that happen? What did I do wrong this time? And in that situation, you're also blaming yourself and your actions that maybe something called that out for.
Thank you so much for your time, Aisha, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in to listen to survivors of gender-based violence share their unique experiences with us. This was not an easy topic to talk about, but we are immensely grateful to each one of our guests for their willingness to share their experiences and raise awareness for any individuals that may be going through something similar. Remember, you're not alone, and help is always there. Thank you so much.